Senator Bernardi.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Listening to this debate and the histrionics and the nature of it reminds me of an adage that if you act in haste, you repent at leisure. And if you listen to those opposite, you'd think that they've done nothing wrong. Well, on the very last day of the sittings of last year, they were prepared to dismantle the only, or perhaps the most successful, some would say the only, successful policy that the coalition has carried through successive governments, and that is protecting our borders, stopping this insidious people smuggler trade and stopping people from gaming the system in trying to come to Australia. Yes, and that's exactly. And Mr. President, Senator O'Neill says I assisted them in delaying the passage of that bill, and I did. I did, Mr. President, because it was wrong. And you know what? The supercilious and sanctimonious on the other side need to acknowledge that, because their own government, their own opposition, has amended it. They realised there were flaws and failings in it, and they've amended it to try and put lipstick on a pig. And this is a pig of a policy, there's no doubt about it. Because last year in the Senate, when I said you will be allowing pedophiles, domestic violence proponents, rapists into the country, they dismissed it and said, we don't care, we've got to be compassionate. And now they've put in a modest little amendment saying if you've been convicted of these offences, you won't be allowed in. The problem is, Mr. President, that those who are committing these sort of heinous crimes in detention and on Nauru haven't been convicted. They haven't been convicted of it. Or those that have been doing it overseas, as Senator Cormann said, in countries where raping a woman is not such a big deal, or where pedophilia is accepted. And these people on the other side are prepared to dismantle those protections because they want to get a cheap political win. And if you want to talk about random politics, these people, the Labor Party, the Greens, those on the crossbench, are gambling with the protection and safety of innocents. Not the innocents that Senator Di Natale pretends to stick up for, not the so-called innocents who pay people smugglers to enter a country illegally, not those who are prepared to threaten or coerce or damage others in order to get a free ride to Australia. The innocents are the Australian people. When Labor dismantled Australia's most successful policy on border protection, it cost the Australian people billions of dollars. And more than that, it cost the Australian people their safety and security. You can have a look at the refugees that you let in on the other side. You let into the country that have damaged Australia. You've damaged Australia's welfare system. You've damaged Australia's national security. 1,200 people at a minimum lost their lives at sea because of policies that you and the Greens enacted. You should be ashamed of yourselves, because now you've opened the door once again to this insidious trade. And because in the greatest act of sophistry I've ever seen, the Labor opposition and the Greens are saying it won't matter, this is a one-off event and it's only to get some people who are in need off Nauru right now. Well, Senator Di Natale says that doctors are going to release hundreds of people off Nauru under, he didn't say spurious conditions, but I can guarantee you they would be spurious conditions. If you haven't got a mental health condition or claim to have one on Nauru now, if this bill passes, that means you are actually mentally ill because you're not gaming the system enough. But these people are opening it up. What are they going to do when the people smuggler trade resurrects itself and there are boatloads of people and they're being put on Nauru? How long before you capitulate again and now allow another several hundreds or thousands of people to come to this country to rip off the system? You should be ashamed of yourselves after years of defending our borders and standing at one with the government. You are now prepared to dismantle it because you are worshipping at the altar of green nonsense. It is just extraordinary. You are prepared to sacrifice Australia's national security, national prosperity. You are prepared to sacrifice Australia's taxpayers' funds because you have this ideological obsession that you should be repatriating people to this country. We all know what is going to happen. If you bring someone to this country, all the lawyers, all the people, the pro bono people will stand up and tie this up in the courts, and you are effectively granting them permanent residency again. It is a shame. It is an indictment. Use some sense. Use some common sense.
Senator Bernardi,
bring it back to this country.
Senator Bernardi, time for the debate has expired.